So Jesus said once, I have come that they might have life, then that they might have it abundantly, more abundantly, he said. The Greek word used for the word abundant here is translated sometimes as over and above. Well, I mean, it's good. But also it's used as exceedingly, abundantly supreme. Sometimes it's translated superior, extraordinary, surpassing, uncommon, or superior, advantage, more eminent, more remarkable, more excellent. I think you get the idea that Jesus said, I came to give you a more excellent life than you would have on your own. Then if you were to follow your instincts, your passions, your understanding of life, you follow your heart, then it's going to lead to emptiness compared to what I will give you, what I have to offer you. Jesus promises to give the Christians the kind of life that is exceedingly, abundantly, supremely more filling than we could ever do on our own. And in John chapter 4, we find a woman who is in desperate need of this kind of life, of this abundant life that Jesus is talking about, because she's been trying it on her own and has had one roadblock after another after another. And you get the impression that Jesus actually really goes out of his way to meet her. I mean, this is very purposeful. It was not a random, hey, just happened to be here and she happens to be there. He like had an appointment with her that she didn't know about, but he knew about. In John chapter 4, it says he had to travel through Samaria, which is unusual because just a little context of the situation and of the time, Jews and Samaritans really didn't like each other. I mean, they didn't like each other a lot. There was just an extreme disdain for one another. Jews referred to any Gentiles as dogs. They considered Gentiles dirty. A Gentile is anybody who's not a Jew, right? They followed the wrong gods. They ate the wrong foods. They were intimate with all the wrong people. Almost everything about their lifestyle was contrary to what the Old Testament law told, how God told the Jews to live. So for a good Jewish person, they were taught to stay as far away from Gentiles as possible. And as much as Jews really were not impressed and kind of looked down upon just your average Gentile, there was a whole new level of hatred almost in many cases when it came to the Samaritans. It took it to a whole different level. Samaritans were the offspring of Jews who had intermarried with Gentiles. So from a good Jew, they looked at it and said, you've taken the pure bloodline of the Jewish people who were supposed to bring the Messiah, and you have intermarried with Gentiles. You have intertwined our blood. You've mixed the blood of Gentiles with Jews, creating a new race of people that the Jews considered to be extra unclean. So there was this excessive bitterness toward the Samaritans because of their ethnicity, for no other reason than that. And of course, when you're hated by someone so much, for so many generations, you start to hate them back. So there is no love lost between the Samaritans and the Jewish people, speaking broadly, of course. Jesus, with his Jewish disciples, now is heading straight into Samaritan territory, right into the heart of Samaria, so that he can have this conversation with this woman who anybody would say has maybe some questionable character or maybe made some poor choices, whatever it is, we don't really know. And he's going to invite her to become part of the kingdom of God. John chapter 4, verse 5 says, so he came to a town of Samaria called Sychar, near the property that Jacob had given his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, worn out from his journey, sat down at the well. It was about noon. So we went to Pennsylvania a few years ago, and rich history of Civil War memorials and things, and lots of things you can see there. And it was fascinating to me that I can't remember what town we're in, it doesn't really matter, that like you could hardly go 30 feet and find like another little plaque or something, or a rock with some plaque on it or something. You know, this so-and-so died here, and here's their name and their rank, or this battle took place here. There's all kinds of historical markers. If you were, excuse me, if the Jewish people put little historical markers like that, the place where Jesus is at would have been filled with them. Kind of like in Pennsylvania. They were all over the place. All kinds of things have happened historically in this area. This is where Abraham built an altar to God. That you read about in Genesis. This is where Jacob buried his false gods and committed to following Yahweh, like, I'm in 100%. This is where Joseph went out into the field to see his brothers, and his brothers sold him into slavery. That happened here. This is where Jacob told Joseph, hey, when you leave Egypt and you take my bones with you and bury me here. He's buried, to my understanding, still to this day, in this area where Jesus is sitting by this well. This is where God told the Israelites to split up. If you read in the Psalms, there are some Psalms where they would go up on one hill and the other, and they would shout back and forth the curses or the blessings of either following or not following the law. And it was this little valley that they were in between these two mountains. That's where Jesus is at right here. This is where Jacob, as we already read, built a well that was still to that day very, very active and useful and meaningful, life-giving to the communities around it. It's Jacob's well from hundreds of years earlier where Jesus sits down to rest. And you know the scenario. It's the desert. It's hot. It's dry. It's rugged. It's rough on the body. It's noonday sun's beating down on you. I mean, he's ready for some refreshment, right? He's ready to have a little bit of water to soothe himself. Now, waters were known by two different names, just two types of water in this area. There was cistern water, where maybe during the rains they'd have it, direct it and save it in a spot, or there was living water. Now the cistern water was stagnant, right? So it'd be good for a while, but at some point it'd become dangerous. You can't drink the stagnant water; it'll hurt you. But the living water was always moving, whether it was a stream, whether it's the underground water that the wells taps into. That was living water. So these are terms that we'll read that would be familiar to someone in this time in Samaria. So he's at this historic place where worship also used to take place. There was a temple there before that the Samaritans had built and the Jews had knocked down. You can't do worship here. I mean, there's no way you can't do that. So they knocked that thing down. And they're at this well supplying water to the community. It's around noon. The sun's beating down. He's thirsty. A woman comes to get some water. Let's just read the story. A woman, this is John chapter 4, verse 7. A woman of Samaria came to draw water. Give me a drink, Jesus said to her, because his disciples had gone into town to buy food. How is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? She asked him, for Jews did not associate with Samaritans. Jesus answered, if you knew the gift of God and who was saying to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would give you living water. Sir, the woman said, you don't even have a bucket. The well is deep. Where do you get this living water? She's like, what are you talking about? You aren't greater than our father Jacob, are you? He gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did his sons and livestock. Jesus said, everyone who drinks from this water will get thirsty again, but whoever drinks from the water that I will give him will never get thirsty again. In fact, the water I will give him will become a well of water springing up in him for eternal life. Sir, the woman said to him, give me this water so I won't have to get thirsty and come here to draw water. So she's still thinking like, okay, I got this free tap of water to my house. I'm in, that'd be great. Go call your husband, he told her, and come back here. I don't have a husband, she answered. You have correctly said, I don't have a husband, said Jesus. For you've had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you've said is true. Sir, the woman replied, I see you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews say that the place to worship is in Jerusalem. Jesus told her, believe me, woman, an hour is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, because salvation is from the Jews. But an hour is coming, and is now here, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. Yes, the Father wants such people to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth. The woman said to him, I know the Messiah is coming, who's called Christ. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. Jesus told her, I, the one speaking to you, am he. that's a big statement. So few times does Jesus come out and spell it. He did it to Nicodemus, we saw that last week, and he does it to this woman in Samaria, of all places. I'm here. I'm the Messiah. I'm the one you've been waiting for, that you've longed for, that you've prayed for, that your ancestors told you would come. I'm here. Let me give you living water. Now, there's a ton of stuff we could talk about in here, and what I did is narrowed it down to just a couple things that we can learn about Jesus in this text. The first thing is that Jesus' way is abundantly better than our way. Now, I'm borrowing from the verse that's not in here when Jesus said, "I came to give you life abundantly," but it's displayed here in what he's describing to this woman. Sometimes our way sounds much more exciting than God's way. So sometimes it just seems better. It's more immediate impact. It feels better, looks better, tastes better, whatever. We just our gut feeling seems better than God's way oftentimes. But as this woman has discovered, all of that leads to ultimately emptiness and loneliness. This Samaritan woman had been on this lifelong search for some kind of fulfillment in life. Now, she was going from relationship to relationship to relationship, trying to find the right person. If that person will make me happy, if the person with these qualities will make me, complete. Whatever it was, she kept looking for that person, but they all left her incomplete and searching for something more. Now, we've all struggled with that at times because we're flesh, we're human, we can't help it. Sometimes we stray from what maybe the word says to things that we might go after that our own way of defining life, our own way of defining happiness. We want to live by our own set of rules. They're so much more logical to me. Sometimes I read stuff in the scripture, I'm like, boy, really? And you have to just say yes, and you bow down in submission. But sometimes we'll stray from that because our ways just seem better to us. They're not, but they seem that way. And in the long run, those choices never, ever actually work. They're based on an emotion. They're based on what feels good, what sounds good, smells good, whatever at the moment, as opposed to what God says actually is the best thing for us. Kind of like if you put a bowl of ice cream and broccoli in front of your children, what are they going to go for? Well, the ice cream. Well, if that's all they ever eat, how's that going to go? It's just not going to go well. It's kind of the same thing with our desires and wills and dreams, some often, as opposed to Scripture. Always go for the better diet. This woman had hopped from relationship to relationship, and as exciting as relationships can be, even look at this. I've read articles on the science of that. All the hormones and stuff that are released. Like, oh, I'm all excited, I'm with the right person now, and that only lasts so long. I mean, that only goes so long that emotion will carry you. It's temporary, and as the newness wore off each time with this gal, she found the lifestyle and the person empty and meaningless, and embarrassing enough that she started to avoid other people. She went to the well at noon. Nobody goes to the well at noon because it's hot. Everybody goes in the morning hours before the sun is too high in the sky. It was a community social event. Everybody had to go get their water, so they'd all gather together, and it was the women who would go get the water when it was cooler, and they get to talk to their friends and say, hey, how's your husband? Oh, great. You just think what John did yesterday? Whatever, and they could do all their little conversations. It was just a time to share in the community. This woman either felt so bad about her life that she just didn't want to, put up, she's embarrassed to be seen with these people, or it could be that they were shunning her. Either way, she was not part of the inner circle of the community. She was not part of the community. She was on the outside looking in. So she went at noon when the other women wouldn't be there. Maybe she felt guilty, or maybe she was shunned. We don't really know. So Jesus made it a point to be there at the right time at noon so that he could have this conversation with her and start her off on a new life. His way is abundantly better than our way. He said, let me give you living water so you'll never thirst again. They'll be so much better than all the stuff you've been chasing after. That's what he offered her. A second thing that we learn about Jesus here is that Jesus is not concerned about our past. His focus is on our future. Last week, we looked at his conversation with Nicodemus and how they met at night, and they were having this conversation. And Jesus tells Nicodemus in John 3:17, God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. He's living that out here. He's sitting at the well with this woman who's had 5 husbands and now living with her 6th man, and he's not condemning her. He's not judging her. He's not looking down on her. What he does is he reaches out to her and strikes up a conversation with her. He knew she'd been divorced 5 times. He's the one who brought that up. She didn't. He knew she was living with a man at that point, but he brought that up. She didn't. But he didn't use that as an excuse to avoid her, and he didn't point his finger at her and call her names or sinner or anything. He just quietly sat down with her and said, hey, you know that peace you've been looking for, I can give it to you. That satisfaction in life you're looking for, I can give you living water if you want it. I'm right. Let me give that to you. He didn't care about her past. I mean, he cares, but he wasn't focused on that. He was focused on her future there. He knew her life wasn't exactly how she planned it to go. She just kind of got lost along the way somewhere. I doubt she sat there as a child, gazing into the stars, wondering what her 5 husbands would look like someday. I mean, that probably wasn't her life plan. It's just how life turned out for her. Nobody plans for relationship failures or work failures or whatever. No one grows up hoping to become a drug addict or an alcoholic. Nobody plans out their lives hoping to make really bad choices. Sometimes we just get lost along the way. Excuse me. And when you run across someone who's in a bad spot. Maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's a friend from high school or college or whatever, a neighbor, and for whatever reason, God has put you in this person's life, and they're in a bad spot. Sometimes the best thing to do is to sit down next to them and just tell them the same thing Jesus did. Don't judge them. Don't say, well, you made all the wrong choices. You realize, you made this bed. You're lying in it, right? I mean, they don't need to hear that. Just sit down and say, hey, I don't care where you've been or what you've done or where you've done it. I want to help you come out of it. That's our approach as the Christian community, to say, hey, we can bring you in. We'll let you come into the early morning hour well time. Come in and be part of a community where we can teach you and disciple you and show you the ways of Jesus. It has been our goal as a church from the beginning to be a place where broken people can come and find rest and to find hope and to find healing through Jesus. And while we must be committed to truth, obviously, that Jesus is spirit and truth, we're to be committed to truth. We must also be the kind of church where people don't have to endure harsh judgment and pointing fingers and accusing stares when they make mistakes. We want to be a place where people can find grace and forgiveness and a new life in Jesus. Now, there came a point in this conversation where Jesus turned a very important corner and introduced her to her whole different way of living. He's like, you can leave what you've done and have a bright future. It's a whole new way of living. He explained the time was coming when the place of worship would no longer be an issue, that we would worship in spirit and in truth. He was talking about the fact that one day we would not have to go to the temple to bring sacrifices and to worship God there, that one day the temple would come to us. The Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians 6 says, we are the temple of the living God. It says in verses 19 through 20, chapter 6, verses 19 and 20, do you not know that your body, talking to the Christians here, your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your body. Paul is saying the holiest place on the planet it's not a church building or an altar or the temple in Jerusalem, whatever. It is you. If you're a Christian person and the Holy Spirit of God is living in you, you are the holiest place on earth. You are the temple of God if the Spirit of God is living in you. And Jesus' promise to her and to us is if we will live with God at the center of our lives, if we will allow God to move in and take over our lives, then our lives will become more fulfilling, more satisfied. We won't thirst any longer. There's no great thing that you haven't accomplished yet that you have to. I gotta have one more guy. I gotta have one more drink. One more whatever. He satisfies that. He satisfies that in you. If you want peace with your job or with your finances, your family, raising your children, people you can't get along with, whatever it is in your life, if you allow God to move in and take control, you have the fulfillment that Jesus offered to this woman. And it doesn't matter who you are or where you've been or what you've done or who you've done it with, Jesus Christ wants to come in and change your life and give you new direction and new hope and grace and forgiveness. This conversation that Jesus had with the woman caused her to just leave everything behind and run into the city and tell everybody, I found him. I found the Messiah. He's told me everything I've ever done. He knows everything about me. And I don't, who knows what everything she said. But in her conversation, the city started rising up and coming out to the well to hear Jesus. And Jesus ended up staying a while teaching and telling people about the kingdom. And in John chapter 4, verse 39, he says, many Samaritans from that town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. He told me all that I ever did. The kingdom of God has spread early from being a purely Jewish thing into now the Samaritans are many of them were part of the kingdom then as well. That's in a nutshell, the story of the woman at the well. And here's the thing. We are called to have these conversations in our lives all over the place. It might be, like I said, at work or in the neighbor, or in the backyard, on the deck, whatever, with people, to be able to sit down and offer them this hope that we have in Jesus Christ, grace that comes with him, forgiveness that comes from him, a new way of living, worshiping him in truth and in spirit. And what an opportunity we have to be a voice for him in the world right now. You know what? Our culture has drifted enough from God that they're just going, this is, I don't have to tell you. I mean, it's a cesspool. I mean, if everybody's reaching out, trying to find satisfaction in life in different ways, and every one of those people at some point will get to a point where they'll realize this didn't work. This didn't work. It's not working for me. It might be 10 years now, it might be 20 years now, whatever. All of the cultural changes going on won't work. And we need to be available when they realize that, to be able to sit down at the well with them and say, well, let me tell you what does work. So I encourage you to keep that in your back pocket at all times. Always be ready. Always be looking for that opportunity to share the grace of God.